Find out about an aggressive program to improve the way seniors' brains function. It was created by a California company called Posit Science Corporation, which posits that you can actually alter the pathways of your own brain at any age through a series of strenuous, mind-stretching exercises. Posit maintains that its exercises may take the equivalent of 10 years off your current ability to remember and process information. Humana Health Insurance is apparently a believer. It now offers Posit's brain fitness program to its members. See what you think.
Scientists used to believe that the brain became set as we got older. But when we learn new things at any age, our brains physically change and create new pathways. This is called plasticity. And the Posit Science Corporation from San Francisco believes that they can harness the brain's natural plasticity to combat memory loss and cognitive impairment as we age. At the Goodwin House Retirement Community in Alexandria, Virginia, 12 residents recently completed the Posit Science Brain Fitness Program, an 8-week interactive computer course designed to exercise and strengthen the brain's speech, language, and memory systems.
Brain plasticity, which the program is based on, is a concept that we all deal with each day. When you learn a new talent, you never play tennis, you learn how to play tennis. You're using other pathways, physically and mentally. And I think that that's what we see with this program, is that it does extend the horizons of the brain capabilities.
I've been a recreation therapist for about 25 years now and have worked with dementia residents for most of that time. Also worked with stroke patients and had heard a lot about brain plasticity in getting recovery. So when I heard about brain plasticity in reference to memory, it made an awful lot of sense to me and wanted to try the program immediately.
By testing the participants' responses to auditory stimuli, Posit Science's Brain Fitness Program hones the listening skills that are essential to communication, memory, and mental sharpness.
Each program begins with the same exercise, which is high or low, and the participants are asked to recognize whether a sound pattern is going up or down.
After the high or low exercise, the Brain Fitness Program picks a random combination of the other 5 available exercises to fill 1 hour of brain fitness training. Tell Us Apart asks the user to differentiate between syllables that sound alike.
So.
In Match It, the goal is to remember different syllables and then watch them.
Stew, stew.
Sound Replay is an exercise that asks participants to reconstruct a sequence of syllables. Listen and Do employs complete sentences and has a user follow a set of verbal instructions.
Click on the mother.
Storyteller has participants listen to an entire original story and answer questions about it.
What season was it?
Posit Science says that to really create a new pathway and to have a benefit from the program, that it's necessary to complete all of these exercises for a minimum amount of time of 40 hours.
The program is really, it's much more difficult than you might think, because on the sounds, they will change the frequency, they'll change the periodicity or the time between them, and the duration of each sound. And so you really have to pay attention to the thing. It's hard work. If you do these exercises for an hour, you're tired. You know you've been somewhere.
Always exhausted at the end of the period, but it was a good exhaustion. But we all tried so hard, and we were trying to go as fast as we could and improve our scores. It was very challenging.
One of the things that's very frustrating is that we'll play sounds together, I mean, each of us listening to it, I'll put it on the loudspeakers on the computer, and I'll hear go, and Glennis will say, no, that's Bo. I say, no, it's go. It's Bo. And of course, they say it's Bo too, but it takes some effort to keep at it.
If you're going to the gym, you're going to notice a change the more you do it and the more you get on that treadmill and work real hard. And it's the same with the Posit Science program. Repetition really is the key.
Even though it may offer real benefits, many brain fitness participants become aggravated with the program.
There's frustration associated with the program because it's not only a time commitment, but you are not allowed to get 100. And for perfectionists, that's really frustrating. There is this threshold that you cannot surpass, and once you start doing a really excellent job, it makes you go to the higher level. It pushes you to the next level, and there's really no way that you can get a perfect score.
What I was best on was the storytelling. And I was so pleased I finally got 100% on one, and I was looking forward to the next time. And of course, because I reached the top, they didn't give it anymore. I was amazed at how the program is set up. The computer knows where your weak points are and your strong ones, and I understood that they adjusted the difficulty accordingly.
I do feel like that level of frustration is a necessary part of the program to push that path through their brains. They need to feel that frustration, experience the frustration, so that they get the benefit of the program.
When we had the training before we were actually able to work with the residents, we went through the program and experienced what the residents would be going through. And seeing and going through it myself excited me more because I know that it would be more rewarding for our residents who really would benefit from the program.
If Posit Science's claims about its program are correct, the arduous experience may well be worthwhile. Posit maintains that completing the program can result in the equivalent of 10 years improvement in memory and cognition.
I'm paying more attention to things where, before I would blank out if somebody started talking. I wouldn't even listen to them. Now I listen to things, and I'm trying to understand things a little bit better.
Well, I think that I concentrate better when I'm hearing instructions for something, or when people are talking fast. I can make sense now out of what they're saying most of the time. And I think I remember things better.
I recall residents saying, I woke up this morning, I was able to remember where I put my keys, I remember where I parked my car in the parking lot, and they were like, oh, it must be that brain fitness program that helped me to remember that.
Yeah, I think it's well worth the effort. I really do. We're convinced of it, and it may be sort of a, what do you call it, self-reinforcing thing, but we keep telling each other it's worthwhile, and we do it. And I don't know. I think we have a sense of accomplishment.
The Posit Science program makes it very clear that it is not the magic pill for memory loss. It's just a stepping stone. It's one of many things that you can do to really work on your memory and create that quality of life in your life. We're all familiar with the old adage that you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but the Brain Fitness program is teaching us that's no longer the case.
I would like to welcome Dr. Michael Mersenich to the Daily Apple. Dr. Mersenich is the Chief Scientific Officer for Posit Science Corporation and is the Francis A. Suey Professor at the Keck Center for Integrative Neurosciences at the University of California at San Francisco. He is a member of the National Academy of Sciences and the winner of numerous awards, and he holds a PhD from Johns Hopkins University. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, it's very nice to be here.
Can you explain what brain plasticity actually is, please?
Well, we now know that the brain changes as we learn, and it actually changes physically and functionally. You could say each time you learn a new skill or ability, it specializes. It actually changes the way the machinery operates to specialize, and that specialization is what accounts for the acquisition of the skill or ability. And this is a power and ability that we possess throughout life. If you think of a lifetime of developing all of the abilities that define us, operationally as human beings. You know, the changes that occur in the machinery of our brain are actually massive. And they're a tremendous resource that we have in our brain that we can use for good.
Now, is this something that scientists just discovered, or have we known about all of this for a
Well,
while?
it's been controversial in the sense that historically it was widely believed, and then there became a period in which the dominant idea was that the brain primarily changed in a young child. And then beyond that early childhood, the brain itself was fixed in its wiring, fixed in its connectivity. And we now know over the last 25 or 30 years that that's just not true. The brain is continually changing itself, and changes, we have the capacity to change it until we die.
If you'll hold that thought, we're going to be back in just a moment.
Sure.
We need to take another quick break. Don't go away, because we'll be right back to continue our discussion about brain fitness with Dr. Michael Merzenich.
True or false? At birth, the size of a baby's brain is the same for males and females. Do you know the answer? False. The average size of a newborn boy's brain is roughly 12 to 20% bigger than that of a girl's. However, it must be taken into consideration the fact that most boys are born heavier in weight and have bigger heads. As a result, a baby girl and boy of the same weight will have the same size brains.
We're back with Dr. Michael Merzenich, the Chief Scientific Officer for Posit Science Corporation. Our topic is brain fitness, and we're learning about Posit Science's program to strengthen memory and cognitive function. So Posit Science, what is it?
Well, basically, we're trying to use the principles of brain plasticity to help people in improving their brain health. And basically, we've applied these principles very intensely in children. And now we're extending this science in application into adults. And for several years, we've been working hard to develop brain science-based training programs that are designed to improve the memory and the cognitive abilities, operational capacities of older individuals.
What was the impetus to develop this kind of program?
Well, it's complex. You know, personally, I was personally motivated by my mother's own decline in Alzheimer's disease, and that very strongly affected me because I knew that we could help these people, that we could help older individuals so that they didn't fall into this catastrophic end stage. And I knew that we could drive rejuvenating changes in brains on the basis of experiments, many studies that have been done in my research laboratory and other laboratories in the world, using this tremendous resource that we all have within our skulls to drive change in our abilities through appropriate intensive practice, training.
I know that some researchers actually push back and say that mind games don't help cognition.
Right.
What do you say to that?
Well, simple games don't help. It takes a specific class of exercise, and you saw something of the exercises in the clip, where you saw people in a very intensive, demanding exercises, listening to making distinctions about the fine details of what they, in listening exercises, fine distinctions about what they heard. And what you should understand about that is that basically they were in progressive training in which the sounds continually changed from sounds they could make easy distinctions about to sounds that were more and more difficult and that represented something more and more like real-life difficult circumstances. Because what you're trying to do is to drive their brain from the sort of sloppy, imperfect operations that apply in an older brain at an older age to a more and more youthful performance ability.
Now, it seems almost like a job. It takes 40 hours to complete the program. Why so long?
Just like physical fitness, changing brains is not easy. This is not about games. This is not about tricks. There's no clever, simple way to accomplish it. You have to slowly, progressively drive the brain back in a corrective direction. But you can achieve it. In fact, you can achieve marvelous change across time with enough effort, enough intense effort and work. But it absolutely requires that. There's no cheap, easy way to accomplish real improvement, real rejuvenation.
Now, in the package, we saw that it was all audio. Does video help as well, or is it just the sound cues?
Well, this is the first of a series of exercises, and the first focuses on one of the main ways in which you take in information that you use in your mental operations, and that's through listening, through receiving speech, listening in language, receiving and operating in the domain and world of language. The second exercise that we will soon introduce is just as complicated, just as difficult, is designed to drive the same benefits in the visual world to taking in information from vision. We see a 10-year improvement on the average in the cognitive abilities and the operational capacities of individuals just from listening.
And this is just from one 40-hour program or
That's
repetitive
right.
use of your
If we
program?
had equivalent changes with vision, that would be tremendous, to drive improvements of that scale. No one has seen anything like that. This is a revolution. It's the beginning of a revolution because we now understand more and more clearly how to change brains back in a more youthful direction from the point of view of their operational capacities.
You talk about back into a more youthful direction. Is this program then specifically for mature adults? Or can anyone use it?
Well, it's designed to be applied in its content and then by its nature in older individuals. But hypothetically, anyone could benefit from this form of training because it's basically designed to take anyone from their ability level that they operate at to as far in a youthful or high competence level as is possible. So you could imagine that among, let's say, 70 or 80-year-olds, there are people that are still very competent. And one of the exciting things we've seen is that even those people have big backward gain, big improvements in their performance abilities. We've also trained people in the same age group that are very near a mild cognitive impairment or even in a mild cognitive impairment condition. And we've been able to drive them very substantially backward, in some cases, very powerful effects in driving them to more youthful performance levels.
So talking about that, you use the analogy of physical fitness. But
Right.
with physical fitness, you obviously have got to work out on a long-term basis.
Right.
So with this kind of program, do you keep redoing the 40 hours, or do you use other memory tools? How do you keep that long-term effect?
Actually, we produce this set of exercises, and a large proportion of people that do them don't want to stop. Because when they come to the end of the exercises, they understand, they appreciate that it is benefiting them. And they enjoy it enough, you could say, to sustain it. And many, many people have done this exercise, gone through these exercises repeatedly. But our real objective is to have a series of exercises that elaborate your abilities. There is so much that can be improved in your operational capacities in older age. And we're trying to develop that larger repertoire of training tools. We're trying to create a real brain fitness center that's full of tools, full of brain plasticity-based instruments that can drive you in all kinds of ways to better and higher performance levels.
So I'm a bit anal retentive, and
Right.
in the package itself, it talked about how you couldn't get to 100%.
Right.
Do you find a lot of frustration, a lot of people that drop out early because they can't ever succeed and get an A+?
There's nothing so useless for the brain as a task that's easy. Because what really requires to drive change in a brain is a task in which you must always have the capacity to make error, to make a mistake, because it requires intense focus. Your intense intentional focus is basically controlling the strength of the learning. And therefore, there's little value in training people at exercises that are too easy. Exercises must be continuously demanding.
So you've already talked about the fact that the cognition and the memory is not permanent unless you repetitively do these exercises over and over. Are there other ways to do it besides sort of an audio way? Is reading, is crossword puzzles, what other kind of tools can we use that you spoke of?
This is a very intensely studied area. And people have found that there is relatively little benefit from these exercises in which primarily you're working on the deficit itself. In other words, if I can't remember, I might engage myself in various activities that practice the art of remembering. Well, the reason you don't remember is not because you don't know how to remember, your brain doesn't understand how to remember. The reason you don't remember is because the way the brain represents the information that you're receiving as a listener or in vision is now in a poor form. It's a little bit like your radio that's not tuned into the station, or in which the background noise is so high you can't quite hear what's going on, right? And now when the brain delivers that lousy information to memory, it's garbage in, garbage out. You can't remember it. You can't use it effectively in your mental operations.
So with Humana Health Insurance now putting Posit Scientific and this benefit, the science program in place, is it now considered to be preventative medicine?
Well, we don't want to call it medicine, but we do think that it is preventative in the sense that it does carry people back to a more youthful, more powerful performance level. We're trying to empower older people. We're trying to revitalize them. We're trying to reinvigorate them in every way we can. And Humana sees the values in that. Humana understands the value in having a healthier, happier, more competent, more capable older population in their insured population. And they're very forward-thinking about this, and we're excited to be in a partnership with them.
Talking about forward thinking, Clearly you are. What are the plans for the future for your company?
Well, we are building now a complete repertoire to fill out all of the instruments of a brain fitness gym, you could say. You could think of it as going to a gym where you have all kinds of tools, all kinds of training strategies that get to all of the aspects of your physical fitness in the same way we can get to all of the aspects of your brain fitness. And that's exactly what we're trying to do, to build out a complete repertoire of tools so that in a regular course of exercise, you can make the most out of life. You can bring your abilities to their peak performance level.
This is fantastic. Thank you so much for your time.
You're very welcome.